Why do I feel safer when no one notices me? You didn't mean to disappear. It just happened. One skipped reply. One moment of pretending you didn't hear your name. One "I'm fine" said a little too fast. And suddenly, you're the background, watching your own life unfold like it belongs to someone else. You thought avoidance was a choice, a way to cope, to stay safe. But now you're not sure if you're protecting yourself from the world, or if you've just forgotten how to be seen. What do you lose by pausing? When no one even notices you stopped, you don't even remember when it started. There was no crash, no dramatic moment, just a slow series of decisions you didn't make. The things you didn't say, the calls you didn't return, the doors you didn't walk through. Because what if they closed on you first? It's easy to pretend it's circumstantial. Work was hectic, life got loud, you were just trying to keep things simple. But it's not simple. It's surgical. You've carved yourself out of your own story piece by piece until you became comfortable in the background. And now, even silence feels like too much noise. You probably know this feeling, even if you've never said it. You show up, technically. You smile when required, you nod when expected. But inside it's blank. Not empty, not broken, just muted. Like the volume knob on your entire personality got twisted halfway down, and you forgot where the dial even was. There's this memory that doesn't leave. You're 10, you raise your hand in class, not even to be noticed, just to be included. The teacher skips over you, keeps skipping, and you feel this warm flush crawl up your neck, that horrible quiet panic of realizing you weren't picked and no one noticed. You laughed it off, but something cracked. You told yourself next time don't raise your hand, next time don't want anything too loudly. That's what you've been doing ever since. Lowering the volume, disappearing preemptively, so no one can ignore you, because you're not even there to begin with. You convinced yourself it was smart. Why chase things that might reject you? Why speak up just to feel overlooked again? So now, before the fear even arrives, you've already backed out. You've already said it's okay, I didn't really want that. But you did. And your brain knows it, even if your voice never said it out loud. Here's the part that still stings. You've gotten so good at erasing yourself that even when someone does ask, you don't know what to say. You freeze. Not because you don't have words, because the idea of being heard feels like a setup. What if you speak and it doesn't land? What if they don't get it? What if you're seen and still forgotten? So you smile, shrug. Say something deflective, funny maybe, light. And walk away replaying every second like it was some kind of emotional crime scene. You've trained yourself out of needing, out of asking, out of wanting. Even joy feels suspicious now. Like a trick, like something you're only borrowing. You feel safer in the middle, not sad, not happy, just unnoticeable. And that safety? It starts to feel like identity. Every sentence starts as a solution and ends in another question. You tell yourself, maybe next week I'll speak up. Maybe this time I'll say what I really think. But when the moment arrives, you blink. Your throat tightens, and it passes, again. Because somewhere deep down, there's this script you never rewrote. If they don't hear me, it's less painful than them not caring. So you stay muted, blurred at the edges, not because you don't exist, but because it hurts too much to prove that you do. And then without warning, it shows up again, that creeping dread in small, harmless moments. Someone asks your opinion, you hesitate, you feel your body disconnect for half a second. As if presence costs more than you can afford. You catch yourself zoning out during conversations, not because you're bored, because you're managing exposure. Every interaction becomes a calculation. Am I too much? Am I too quiet? Did I just make it weird? It's not social anxiety, it's self-erasure, and it's become so habitual you don't notice it anymore. Sometimes, you overthink so hard, you don't even remember what the original thought was. You try to script every word in advance. Rehearse silence like it's your only fluent language. You walk into rooms already halfway out the door. And when something good happens, a compliment, a connection, a moment of presence, you freeze. Because you weren't built for that. Not anymore. It's not that you stopped trying. It's that every try feels quieter than the last. Until one day, you realize the only person who still remembers what you sound like is you. And even that memory's starting to fade. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was realizing You've been doing all the right things, but from the wrong place. Saying the right words, smiling at the right moments, keeping yourself from making it weird. But inside, it's just management, a full-time job of avoiding disappointment before it arrives. And somehow, you're still disappointed. You thought you were playing it safe. But now, every day feels like you're borrowing time from a version of yourself that stopped existing a while ago. You catch yourself saying, "I'm just tired." But it's not tired. It's something heavier, like dragging your body through the shape of who you used to be. And no one notices the weight because you've made it look effortless. Right here is where you got used to disappearing. You overthink what you want until it becomes what you're afraid of. You tell yourself you're chill, flexible, easy. But truthfully, you've just stopped asking for anything. You don't trust your needs. You don't trust the timing. You don't trust that if you show up fully, it won't cost you everything. What if you stopped knowing who you are, but kept pretending you did? What if the version of you that everyone likes is just the part that hurts the least to perform? What do you do when rest feels more dangerous than exhaustion? You thought your silence was strength, that if you could carry it quietly, maybe it would hurt less. But the silence started to scream, and you still didn't say anything, because you didn't want to make it real. You didn't want to be seen cracking. You've become so fluent in disappearing, you don't even realize when you're doing it anymore. There's a moment, right after someone asks how you're doing, and right before you say "I'm fine," where your whole body pauses. Not because you're lying, but because you can't remember what truth feels like without apology attached. So you smile, and call it being low maintenance, call it independence, call it maturity. But you know what it really is. It's fear of being seen, of being misunderstood, of being too much and not enough all at once. And this is where something quietly broke. Because now, even when something hurts, you filter it through logic, delay, perfection. Until it doesn't even feel like yours anymore. You've convinced yourself you're managing. But really? You're just not letting anyone close enough to notice how much it costs to stay this invisible. How many days do you survive by simply not asking if this is living? How long can you go without being seen before you stop looking for yourself too? It didn't fall apart. It faded, and no one noticed but you. You tell yourself you're okay, and maybe you are. But deep down, something in you is still waiting. For a moment, you don't have to rehearse. For a sentence, you don't have to swallow. For someone to see you, without you having to disappear first. Maybe it wasn't about hiding. Maybe you just got tired of not being chosen, so you stopped showing up to be picked. You didn't even flinch. That's how deep it got. You learned how to nod without agreeing, to laugh without feeling, to leave without making a sound, and it worked. Until the quiet started to ache louder than the noise ever did. Some days you wonder if you stopped needing too much, or if you just stopped needing out loud. If maybe you were never invisible, just unread. And now the question lingers, not like a scream, but like a room you still live in. What if your silence wasn't survival anymore? What if it's just what's left? You don't have to figure it all out. Just don't disappear mid-thought.